Good day, Your Majesties, and those of you watching, to the first virtual University of Oklahoma Medieval Fair. I am Dennis, the Lord Falconer. This is my wife, Mary. She and I co-own Raptors Keep, a federally licensed and permitted conservation education program. This is Andrea. She'll be assisting Mary today. I'm going to let them go ahead and start working with the birds and getting them ready to fly. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what we do. Raptors Keep is a conservation education program. We are federally licensed. Our birds are individually permitted to us. We are given these birds by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We don't actually own these birds. We're caretakers for these birds. Now, we take these birds out, or we do them virtual this year, on display. The reason for that is they want us to get these birds out so the public can see them, so we can tell you a little bit about them, talk to you about the dangers of lead, the dangers of rat poison, the dangers that society presents to them. Another reason that we bring these birds out is so that you can get a finer appreciation of these birds. Having that appreciation, seeing these birds up close, you see them in the wild, you see them fly, you may see them on their migratory paths, but when you can see them up close, you can find out how majestic they really are. You can also see how dangerous they are when we talk about their talons and we talk about their beaks. And the reason we want you to understand this is we don't want you going out into the wild, finding one of these birds and taking it home. First of all, it can do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. Second of all, it is illegal under the Migratory Bird Act. But a lot of people wouldn't know that unless they saw our program.
Now I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about the Migratory Bird Act of 1918. Now this is actually what came into effect and why it actually became illegal to possess a bird or even a feather of a bird that is migratory here in the United States. Now, in 1918, it was very popular to have bird feathers in women's hats, and because of this trend, because it was so popular, it actually drove several bird species into extinction. And so the Migratory Bird Act was created in order to protect those birds and prevent any more bird extinctions here in North America. Now, this does cover everything from Canadian geese all the way up to birds of prey. Now, you can have the feathers and the birds with the proper permitting, and we'll be talking about that permitting later.
I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about the sport of falconry. The sport of falconry is known to be between 4,000 and 5,000 years old and is our oldest sport. Before we had knives or guns or bows and arrows for sport, we had falconry to ensure we had meat on the table every day. During the reign of King Henry and Queen Elizabeth, falconry was in its golden age. Everyone from their majesties all the way down to common folk like you and I practiced the sport of falconry. In fact, each class was assigned its own bird. Falconry is defined as the taking of wild game with a trained bird of prey. Now I'd like to talk to you about the difference between hawks and owls. Hawks have something called a crop. So hawks, eagles, and falcons will all intake their food. The food will go into the crop and take up to 24 hours to digest. Then they know they're full. Owls, on the other hand, don't have a crop. Without that crop, the food goes straight to their stomach. So you can be having a perfect training day, and that owl decides everything's over. Another difference between hawks and owls are their hunting styles. Hawks, falcons, and eagles all hunt their prey in pursuit mode. Owls, on the other hand, are true assassins. They wait in a tree for their prey to come underneath, pounce and attack. Now, I can go on and on and on with useless facts, but I assume you'd probably like to see some birds fly, so let's get to it. Now we'd like to bring out Zena. Zena is the largest owl species on the planet and is not native to the United States. She is a Eurasian eagle owl. These birds are able to withstand a 200-degree temperature variation over that area. You'll notice when she comes out that she has feathers all the way down to the talons on her feet. This allows her to maintain heat. You'll also see that she's quite large compared to our great horned owls. In fact, they are the largest owl species on the planet and have been known to live over 80 years. So while she's with our facility and will be for life, we also put her in our wills so we know who her next handlers will be. The Eurasian eagle owl is unique in that they hunt deer and wolf. They have around 2,300 foot-pounds of pressure in their feet and 300 foot-pounds of pressure in their beak. They also are interesting in that they will hunt with a white fox. It's the only animals that we know in the raptor kingdom that will hunt with a mammal. When the Eurasian eagle owl takes its prey, it will eat and stand off and guard that prey while the white fox comes in and eats. Once the white fox is full, then the owl will go back on the kill. Zena is an imprint. She was born in captivity and raised by humans. While she understands how to hunt, she actually believes she's part of the human pack, so will not be released back to the wild. This will be Zena's first attempt at flying. She came to us with a dislocated knee and a bent wing. The wing, we suspect, came from being stepped on when she was very small in that nest. This actually will give you a chance to see the very beginnings of how we start working with a bird to be able to get them to fly to us. This is Xena. She's a Eurasian eagle owl. They are non-native to the United States. Her range is from northern Siberia all the way down to Ethiopia. You'll see, if we can get her to stand up a little bit, she has feathers all the way down on her feet, giving her the ability to withstand those cold temperatures. Now, interestingly, you see with these feet, if I can do this without getting hurt, you see those claws, and you see that foot. Those claws are actually longer than a panther's claws. Those claws actually come all the way back up to here. They have about 2,300 foot-pounds of crush strength in those feet, and about 300 pounds of crush strength in the beak. The eyes, hey, I want to talk about your eyes. I want to talk, can I, turn around. There we go. You see those beautiful eyes. Those eyes are actually fused to the back of the skull. They don't move around like our eyes do and like the hawk's eyes do. This is where you get the old wives' tale that owls can turn their head all the way around. They can do that once, but it falls off, and it's not a good thing. They can, however, turn their head about 270 degrees. This is because instead of the 7 neck bones we have, they have 14 neck bones, so she is able to turn it 270 degrees, and they turn it so rapidly it can look like she's actually turning her head completely around. And you can tell she's focused on something. I'm not sure what she's focused on, but she's focused on something. These are feathers. They're not ears, they're just feather tufts. The ears actually on an owl, this one is up and forward, while this one is down and back. They use that along with their, would you turn around? It makes it really hard. Hey, there we go. There we go. Their face is shaped like a disc, and it works to collect that sound so that they can echolocate with those ears. She sees a red-tailed hawk flying around up there. Now we know what it is. Can you open your wings up for me? Come on. Nope, she's not going to do it. We'll see if we can get her to fly. Now, Xena came to us from a facility that got her as a hatchling. Like I say, they're non-native to the United States, so the only way to have one of these owls is to actually buy one from a breeder. The person took Xena, put all the equipment on her, and actually has a very nice mammal show that she does. Really good, really clean. I would eat off the floor in her facility in a heartbeat. Hey, it's okay. He's not going to hurt you, I promise. He couldn't hurt you if he wanted to. So we go down to her facility, see the facility, see Xena, really cool bird. She calls us about a month later and says, I've got to go out of the country for 3 months. Can you take care of my bird? Well, I don't do that because anything that might happen to her is going to be on us. So I told her no, we couldn't do that. She calls back about a week later and says, can I just donate Xena to your facility? I said, sure, we'll come down and pick her up. So we load up, go down, get to the facility. I asked her why. She said, well, like I said, I'm going to be out of the country for 3 months, and all my employees are scared of her. They absolutely wouldn't handle her, wouldn't go near her. They just threw the food at her, and she stayed in her kennel all day. So I sit down on the ground. Xena comes out, walks over, sits down on my lap. Realize we've got some kind of a bond going on. And that's when I noticed she's got a cast on her knee. Looks a little odd. So I asked her what happened. She said, well, she got hung up in her flight cage. They had leather pieces right here. We call these jesses, which are attached to the anklets on the leg. Allows us to maintain control of the bird. These are non-native, so you don't want to release one into the wild. So we take her into our facility, take her to the vet the next day. By the way, this is a donation. This is a free bird. Never take a free anything. We take her into the vet. He does an x-ray. She has completely dislocated that knee. In addition, you notice how she droops this right wing a little bit more than the left wing. He took x-rays and found that the leading edge bone was bent. It wasn't broken, but it was bent. We think she got stepped on in the nest, and it deformed that bone just a little bit. So $7,000 and my free bird later, we go back to the facility, and we've been working with her ever since. She has been cleared to fly, and this is the first time we've tried to fly her, so this may go really, really well, or she may just sit there and look at me and want me to bring the food to her. I'm going to ask my wife Mary to come out and assist me. We've got a really strong wind today, and as you see, she's really focused on that red tail, who, by the way, I can't see at this point. So we know she's focused. We know she's locked on. That's how that vision comes into play. Oop. She may be ready. We'll see. Let me get you hooked up. Hang on. Let me get you hooked up. I know. I'm hurrying. You bossy today. Okay. Here we go. Just like that. Now, Mary, if you'll come stand right over in here, and I'm going to tempt her with one of her favorite foods, a big juicy mouse. And she's not looking. Xena! Xena! Want a mouse? No? Since it's her first time, we'll get up here a little closer. Do you want a mouse? Hey, you want a mouse? Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. No, I need you to step down. Come on. And this is the fun of working with an owl. One thing you notice, they have their own mind, but they're like having a 3-year-old. Can you imagine having a 3-year-old in your house for 100 years? Yeah, that's what it's like every day. And we have 8 of them. Come on. Come on. Will you take it? Will you at least take it off the glove? Oh, sure. You'll take it. Oh, come on, don't be a messy eater. Don't be a messy eater. Here, want some? Want some? Let's get that. Got it. Come on, right here. Step off. Come on. Okay. Well, it looks like she's going to be an owl. Will you at least take that? Close. You want it down there? You didn't see that, did you? Put that out there a little further. Maybe. There she goes. There she goes. Good girl. Good girl. Get it? Want a little salad with it? Where? Come here. I know. Come here. Come here. Come here. Step up. There you go. Step up. She gave us a present here. It'll come out here in a minute. We'll pick it up. All right, one more time. One more time. You want another mouse? Now you know what they are. Here you go. You need to turn around. Turn around. There you go. Here's a mouse. Here. There it goes. She saw it. She wants it. She really wants it. Come on, baby. Come on. She'll edit you out of just sitting there. Go ahead and pick that up and toss it over here into this clear patch and then walk away. Good girl. All right, that's 2 flights with her. I think that's good enough right now. I'm going to see if I can get down here and see if she'll let me pick her up. You want to go back up here? Let's try something. Xena, you got another one?
I do, in fact.
Xena, hey, look here. Look here. Yeah, I'll finish eating. Come on, you want another one? Xena, Xena, hey baby, right here. We'll see if she'll go up there. Maybe. Maybe not. You know you want it. No? You don't want it? You can't be full, that's just 2. We'll turn it around and see if it'll stay. Right here. Right here, baby. Right here. Okay, that'll work.
The next bird we would like to bring out is Thanatos. we affectionately call Thanatos Mr. T, and Mr. T is a turkey vulture. He actually came to us from a facility out in Colorado, and this facility in Colorado had actually had him from a chick, and because he was so young when they had him, he actually became an imprint. He actually thinks that he is human. He does still have a few basic instincts from the wild, but he actually prefers to spend his times with humans, and specifically women such as myself. He much prefers women to men for some strange reason. I also have lots of really cool vulture facts to share with you guys today. The turkey vulture actually does not make nearly as many noises as what most birds of prey make. Birds of prey can make a very wide variety of noises. With the hawks, you'll hear them actually make the very loud calls, something along the lines of screaming, and then they also make some chittering or almost whining noises. And in the Harris's hawks, you'll hear them growl, or they'll make an sound to us. And then they will also use that same sound, but add to the voice, or add volume to their voices, and make it another almost a screaming noise. And it's actually a little bit adorable when you're dealing with them when they're comfortable with humans. But if you were to have that hear that sound in a wild animal, that would actually be very disconcerting. Now, turkey vultures actually don't have the ability to make any of these noises. There's actually only two different noises that these guys can make. One of them is actually a very low grunting sound, and they use this grunting sound in two different situations. One of them is actually during the mating process when they're choosing their mates in order to make nests and lay eggs and whatnot, and then they will also use that to beg food from their parents. So it's also a very cute noise, but if you were to hear that from a wild animal, it would actually be very disconcerting. Another noise that they can make is they will actually hiss, just like a cat. And this is actually quite a loud noise for a turkey vulture, something that doesn't actually have vocal cords as we would understand them with most birds of prey and most creatures in general. So this hiss sounds just like an angry cat, and let me tell you, that is actually quite frightening the first time that you hear that. It's not something that you would expect from him. So we do have a turkey vulture here with us, Mr. T, as I've been discussing, and turkey vultures have some incredible adaptations in order to be able to be the garbage disposals of the wild. On their heads, you will notice that he actually has no feathers on his head. They have that because when they go down to eat, they will actually stick their heads in and actually ingest all of the soft bits of meat. And when they do that, having no feathers on their heads prevents any bits of blood or parasites or diseases from sticking to their heads. The other thing that you'll notice is that there's no feathers on their legs from below their elbows down. And on their legs, you'll notice that some of his legs are nice. They have such an intense pH level. They have also been known to ingest diseases like anthrax and actually destroy that within their system. So they are remarkably clean animals for their reputation. As you're going to see, Mr. T has glossy black feathers, and these glossy black feathers help absorb sunlight. Now, an interesting thing about turkey vultures is that they do, in fact, lower their body temperature by upwards of 2 degrees at night. So they use those feathers as a kind of solar panel to be able to gather as much body heat as they can over the day and into the evening, so that they can make sure that they have plenty of body heat to get them through the night. Turkey vultures like to roost on very flat surfaces, things like the tops of buildings, the tops of water towers, cliff sides, and things like that. This allows them to be able to get up into the air quickly because, as you will see, Mr. T has a difficult time getting from the ground up into the air. All right, Mr. T, are you ready to do some work? You ready to fly, buddy? Hey, Mr. T. Now, for Mr. T, we like to start out nice and short for him because it is actually rather difficult for these guys to get up into the air from the ground position from when they're actually on the carcass eating. They have a rather large body mass to their wing ratio, and they're actually surprisingly heavy. These guys are meant for soaring, which is part of why they have such incredible scent, because they're always up in the thermals. And when you see a group of vultures that are circling around, that's actually called a kettle, which is something I find rather interesting. Now, the turkey vultures, because they are meant to be soaring instead of flying like we would expect from a hawk or an owl, they actually have very poor eyesight. They can only see to about 5 feet in front of them, but they do have an incredible sense of vision, or sense of smell, pardon me. They have an incredible sense of smell. They can actually smell the methane from their prey, from those carcasses that these guys like to eat, from up to 2 miles away. So these guys will sit up in the sky and they will soar for hours on end and try to smell where their next meal might come from. Because he is a scavenger, he actually has almost no grip strength in his feet, so it's also a little bit difficult to get him to fly to the glove continuously because he can't actually grip it whenever he's coming to the glove. But as you can see, he definitely loves to fly. And you'll see that he's actually trying to nip at me a little bit more, but that's actually just his way of saying, hey, I want food. Oh my gosh, you're the one that has food. Talk to me. Let me love you. All right, one more? One more, buddy. Hey. Buddy, I have to have the glove in order to get you food. You know this. You know this. Yeah, you want to eat? Let's do one really long one. Come on, buddy. Good boy, Mr. T. Now, what I like to do for Mr. T is I like to help build up some of his chest muscles to be able to make sure that he can get up and down and likes to fly as much as we can. So let's see if we can't do that with him now. Come on. All right, buddy. Can you jump up? Mr. T. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Sir, hey, there's food down here. No, hey, right here. Now, you'll notice and a couple of things that he's been biting me quite a bit. You know, these guys, all of the birds that we've been flying, you know, it might look super adorable to try and get him to fly with us, and you'll actually notice he's chasing me around because he knows that I have food here. And because of this, you know, he does know that we do have food, but Mr. T is actually very aggressive, even for being an imprint, and this is true with all birds of prey, which is another reason why we encourage people to not actually try to keep these guys as pets, because it is quite painful and actually quite dangerous. Mr. T is actually built for tearing up meat and skin and hide and things that are very, very hard and very tough to people like you and I, but for him, it's great fun. So we're going to try to do one more thing with Mr. T, try to get him to fly right down here in front of us. And then another thing that I like to do with him is actually try to bring him between my legs, just like this here, unless he gets distracted by my boots. It looks super cute, but this is actually quite painful whenever he does bite me. So we're going to try to go ahead and keep him away from me as much as I can, because I don't want to encourage that behavior. Come on. Yeah, I know you don't like it. Now, I could really do a lot of different things with Mr. T. We do try to give him as much enrichment as possible, and we do try to encourage his natural behavior because he is an imprint. He does have a few instinctual behaviors like this here. This is what he would actually be doing out in the wild. Our gloves are actually generally made out of elk hide, moose hide, cow hide, some of the most difficult leathers that we can get a hold of, and he has actually ripped holes in these before. And so we really don't want him to continue to bite at us like that. So what we do is we will actually encourage some of his natural behaviors by putting his food into things like children's toys, like the rubber balls and things, and allow him to reach through and actually bite at and grab a hold of his food from that to encourage some of those natural behaviors. Mr. T. Mr. T. Right here. Good boy. Good boy. And we do try to do behaviors just like this. We do want to encourage him to fly. We do want to encourage him to, have those natural behaviors, which is why we provided those enrichments like that. So I really could go on, and I could have an hour-long show or better with just Mr. T alone. But for right now, he is getting a little bit cranky and a little bit frustrated. So we're going to go ahead and get one last flight with him, and then we're going to go ahead and put him up. Mr. T. Good boy.
We hope you've enjoyed our show today, and I'd like to leave you with a few things. First, please switch from lead shot to steel and from lead fishing equipment to steel. It only takes a slice of lead the size of your clipping of your little finger to kill bald eagles and any other scavenger or bird of prey that were to come down onto those things shot and left in the field. Second, I would ask that you not use poisons. Poisons are blood thinners, and with blood thinners, a mouse or a rat can eat that and get outside the house. That can be eaten by a cat. That cat may be taken by a coyote. The coyote ends up dead. A vulture comes down and eats that carcass, and now we've impacted that entire food chain. The third thing I'd ask is that you not use sticky traps outside. Be judicious in your use of sticky traps. Indoors, they're fine. Outside, they can take out songbirds, small garden snakes, other animals that are beneficial to the food chain. I'd also like you to know that while we are permitted by the federal government, under those rules, we also are not allowed to make a profit. So everything goes to the birds for their care and feeding. If you've enjoyed our show today and would like to make a small donation, you can donate at one of the sites below. Also, please visit us at our Facebook page, Raptors Keep. Send us an instant message. We'll be happy to provide you any information you'd like on these birds or our organization. Lastly, I'd leave you with this. We have one world, and we're all in this together. All we can do is take care of what we have, and I would ask that we reduce, reuse, and recycle. Enjoy the rest of your festival day. We're Raptors Keep. One last thing. If you find a raptor on the ground, please, whatever you do, leave it there. Call your local Fish and Game or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They'll direct you to someone who can help. Thank you.
Sir Lonval was in big trouble. He had been thrown in the dungeon. Why? He had been doing so well lately. He had found love, he had become a wealthy man, which made him very popular among all the knights and ladies of the court. He was invited to all the right parties until he was invited to the very wrong party. It was a very exclusive, invitation-only Midsummer Night's party at the Queen's Gardens. And it was quite a party. People were eating and drinking and dancing and drinking and singing and drinking. Well, you get the picture. As the evening wore on, things got a bit out of hand, a bit too wild for Lonval's taste, so he found a calm corner of the garden and sat down. When who should plunk down right next to him but the Queen herself? "Lonval," she said, "you are so handsome." "Oh, thank you, Your Majesty." "Lonval, I like you. I want you to be my special friend. Oh, but your majesty, I serve your husband, the king. As a knight, I could never. The king? You're afraid of the king? Or do you already have a special friend? A lovely lady? Poor Lanval, he got very flustered. As you remember, his beloved lady, the Queen of Elfland, had told him that he, under no circumstances, was to tell anybody about her. In fact, if he did, she had said she would abandon him. He would never see her again. But the Queen was very insistent, and we have to remember that Lanval was a little tipsy, so before he knew it, he had blurted out the whole story about how he met the Queen of Elfland. That evening ended in tears. The Queen was very hurt. The king had spotted Lanval and the Queen there sitting together, and he was sure that Lanval was up to no good, so he threw him in the dungeon. And poor Lanval, having betrayed his lady, the Queen of Elfland, she had abandoned him. So however many times he sat there in the dark calling for her, she did not show up. The next morning, the king gathered the court. I am accusing Sir Lanval, he said, for having disrespected the queen and having committed treason towards the crown. What is your verdict? One of the knights said, Your Majesty, if Lanval were to produce as a witness this Queen of Elfland that he has talked about, he could prove his innocence, because that would show that he had no such intentions towards the Queen, and if in fact this lady is as beautiful as he says, that would prove that he is telling the truth. All right, said the king. Well, I don't have all day, so Lanval, call the witness. But of course, poor Lanval could do no such thing. That's it, said king. Pass the verdict. But just then, there was a bit of commotion at the very back of the hall, and then a hush fell over the whole court. And there, on a shining white horse, came the Queen of Elfland riding. She rode through the whole hall up to the king, and she said, Your Majesty, I have loved and been loved by one of the knights of your court, Sir Lanval. And though he has a bit of a hasty tongue and has talked very boastfully about me, I wouldn't like him to suffer for my sake. So I am taking him with me to my lands. Lanval, sit up on the horse. We are leaving. Her mantle was of velvet fine, rain and dew, with silver bells, 12 and 9. He'll be back when the woods down green. Her horse was whiter than milk, rain and dew, with bridles of silver and silk. He'll be back when the woods down green. She took him by the hand, rain and dew. Come, let's ride to Elberland. He'll be back when the woods down green. She sat upon her horse so white, rain and
Come over the hill, my bonny Irish lass. Come over the hill to your darling. You choose the road, love, and I'll make the vow, and I'll be your true love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, and fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, and my love is fairer than any. 'Twas down by Killarney's green wood that we strayed, and the moon and the stars, they were shining. The moon shone its rays on her locks of golden hair. She swore she'd be my love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, and my love is fairer than any. 'Tis not for the parting that my sister pains, 'tis not for the grief of me mother, 'tis all for the loss of my bonny Irish lass, that my heart is breaking forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, but my love is fairer than any. But my love is fairer than any.
Here we see an example of a modern reconstruction of the classic shield boss, used as the centerpiece for most shields of the medieval period. This particular one is being made to be fitted onto a Viking-era shield. Although the metal appears cold, it is still workable, and it's still quite hot at this temperature.
Most important commodities in the medieval times was spices. During the Crusades, religious crusaders got a taste for the spices and cuisines of the Middle East in the High Middle Ages and renewed a widespread interest in spices in Europe. Merchants obtained many spices for their consumers, including pepper, ginger, cinnamon, clove, saffron, and new spices like grains of paradise and spikenard. At this point, spices were only for the rich. The European merchants tried to find spices in Asia. The roads were dangerous through the Middle East and Africa. The challenges faced were physical danger, local tariffs, and taxes. The spices' origins stories flourished since there was no direct source to the European consumers. Some stories include pepper trees being guarded by serpents and cinnamon requiring one to harvest from a nest of great birds built on treacherous cliffs. These stories added awe and worth to the spices. Only the wealthy could afford large amounts of spices for culinary purposes. Large, grand feasts were a must, and spices were a staple. Even smaller meals were adorned with the fine spices. The basic purpose of a spice is to color, flavor, and scent a dish. This additive impressed even the most uptight guest. But what about the poor? It would cost a day or more wages to cover the cost of spices needed to cook. They were mainly limited to salt or honey, which doubled as a preservative.
A long time ago, in a land not that far away, there was a beautiful little village by the name of Petit Lyon. Now, Petit Lyon had once been a very small town. It was next to a much larger town. Unfortunately, the larger town of Lyon had fallen into ruin over the years, and Petit Lyon was surely on the same path. So all of the elders of the village got together and thought, what can we do to save our town? Well, the youngest among them came up with one of these ideas. You see, indeed, the town herald was only there not as an elder, but as an observer. But sure enough, the young Tybalt spoke up, said, "What if we have a tournament?" Now, tournaments, of course, are quite popular. Jousting is a good time. And the elders thought on this for a moment and decided that surely this was the answer. In order to have a proper tournament, though, you have to have lots of knights. And so they sent messages out to all of the corners of the kingdom, and even beyond, across even several of the seas. At first, nobody answered. Until the town mayor had a good thought. Now, see, Lord Mayor thought to actually put up a prize from his own stocks. You see, he had this most beautiful ruby, the largest of its kind that anyone had ever seen. And he decided that that would be the prize. A fair enough of a prize and enough of a fee for him to be able to save his dear town. With no town, there's no taxes to collect, and with no taxes to collect, well, which point is it to be the Lord Mayor? But I digress. He put up this great ruby, and sure enough, entrance began filing in. Well, see, the richest man in town had the same idea, indeed. He brought out this most beautiful opal that shone like the moon, and he put that forward. And soon all of the participants doubled. Finally, the day for the tournament came. Now, because there were so many, this took many days. And not only did it bring in participants, it brought in those who wanted to watch, and horseshoers, and farriers, and leather workers, and woodworkers, and all these wonderful sundry people who were bringing their money and spending it in the shops, and buying fine wares, and everything was wonderful. The first 2 days of the tournament went splendidly until they finally whittled it down until there were 2 finalists for champion. Dame Margaret from the next country over. She was a fierce competitor. And, of course, Sir Alphonse, a local knight, but not so local. The 2 were tied after 2 tilts and were getting ready for the 3rd, when suddenly the entire sky above them darkened out of nowhere. There wasn't an eclipse, there were no clouds, it wasn't nightfall, and the entire town began to panic. What was going on? And then our herald, who was still young enough that he believed in magic, looked up. He saw what was happening. You see, he had not lost his sight for magic yet, and he saw a great red dragon, large enough to blot out more than half the sky. And also in the sky was a great flying unicorn. And the 2 were doing battle. And he had no idea what was going on. No, so he stopped, and gathering up his bravery in his loudest voice, he called up, "What are you doing?" Bit of an odd thing to try, really, but oddly enough, it actually worked. You see, the dragon paused and looked down. "Well, human, we have come to participate in the tournament." Well, this was a bit unusual. Tybalt was very good at trying to figure out new things in the unusual. So he looked around and he had noticed both Dame Margaret and Sir Alphonse had fallen off their horse in the final tilt. But no one had known who had hit the ground first. And he thought quick. And he called up, he said, "Well, you've bested our champions. Surely you are the winners." At this, the dragon landed and looked at the man. "Do you have the authority to call this?" The herald had, of course, been running much of the tournament, but he turned to the Lord Mayor, and he turned to the richest man, who had both, of course, set down these prizes. He said, "We must give prizes to our champion." The 2 men agreed, a bit scared, because quite suddenly there were these great depressions in the ground and hoof marks. You see, they were quite old and had forgotten what magic was like. So Tybalt turned to them. He said, "Well, and you shall have your ruby, and the unicorn indeed shall have their opal." The unicorn at this stamped its feet furiously, and the dragon said back, "No, nay, I want the opal. My friend here came for the ruby." Oh, Tybalt, of course, shook his head at this. Semantics, of course. And so he declared it to be so, and the two were gifted their prizes in a very special way, under a circumstance. You see, Tybalt was a quick thinker, and he asked that the dragon and the unicorn be involved in the victor's parade. It's quite typical that the victor will lead a great parade through town. It's only the best way to celebrate their victory. The dragon, of course, acquiesced to this, and the unicorn seemed to as well, with a neigh and a stomp. And so, the next day, they lowered banners across the streets and widened as best they could so that the two could fit through. And Sir Alphonse's horseshoer himself created great hoof covers for the unicorn out of the rubies. And they had them, the great opal mounted by the local blacksmith, a great chain for the dragon. The next day, sure enough, down the centre of the street, the dragon and the unicorn walked, one after the other. Wasn't quite wide enough yet. And as people watched, as the great opal bobbed and the rubies pranced, well, their minds kind of filled everything in. And the dragon became just as real as it indeed was. And the unicorn, of course, became quite visible. Because you see, sometimes magic only takes a bit of belief. How? Ever since that day, the town of Petit-Léon has thrived. You see, every year, they hold the tournament of the dragon and the unicorn. And it is said that anyone who is descendant from anyone who was in the town at that time, well, they can see magic without fail well into their years. Because you see, magic saved the town. So why not believe in it?
With the invention of the printing press, mass production of written words became both more economical and more common. While larger books might sell for more money, each page would have to be set up, printed in mass, and later collated, then bound into a volume before a printer could realize a profit. Short printing jobs of single sheets could be sold more quickly from start to finish, and only needed to have one page set up for an entire run. These most common forms of printed material were called broadsides because they were printed the broad direction on a single side of a piece of paper. Ballads were a commonly printed type of broadside. These lyric sheets often detailed stories in comical, fanciful, tragic, or historical themes. Some of them had original tunes, but most of them were meant to be sung to melodies that would have been familiar to many of the common people of the time. Collections of broadside ballads were even printed together into small cheap books or chapbooks for people who wanted them and could afford them, much like modern paperbacks. Today, we may turn on our radios, or more likely our MP3 players, or go to the cloud, and hum, sing, or just bob along with the music that we hear. But long before there were electronic recording and playback devices, there were broadside balladeers trying to sell you the lyrics to their ballads. The familiar melodies and memorable stories of the broadside ballads were the popular music of their day.
Good day, good even, well met. Well, I was a bound apprentice in famous Lincolnshire. Full well I served my master for more than 7 years, till I took up a poaching, as you shall quickly hear. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. As me and my companions was setting of a snare, 'twas then we spied the gamekeeper, for him we did not care. But we can wrestle and fight, my boys, and jump o'er anywhere. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. As me and my companions were setting for her 5, and taking of them up again, we caught a hare alive. We caught a hare alive, my boys, then homeward we did steer. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. We threw him over our shoulder, then we trudged on home. We took him to a neighbor's house, we sold him for a crown. We sold him for a crown, my boys, but I dare not tell you where. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. Now good luck to every gentleman who lives in Lincolnshire. Good luck to every poacher who wants to steal a hare. Bad luck to every gamekeeper that will not sell his deer. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. Of the season of the year. Well, that was the Lincolnshire Poacher, or my version of it. It is often listed as a traditional song. However, if you go back in the records, as it were, you will also find it listed as a broadside. It's both. It bridges the gap. Now, broadside means that it was printed on the broad direction on a piece of paper on a printing press to turn a quick coin. Because books, you had to put a lot of labor and a lot of wealth into creating the books far ahead of when you would be able to see any benefit from it if the book sold well. A broadside, however, was just printed like flyers that we have today and was the popular music of its time. So I'm going to take you back with some old broadsides, and I'm going to bring you some newer ones as well. Sir Eglamour was a valiant knight, Fala lanky down dilly, put on his sword and he went to fight. Fala lanky down dilly, and as he rid o'er hill and dale, all armored in his coat of mail. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. There starts a huge dragon out of its den. Fa la lanky down dilly, which had killed I know not how many men. Fa la lanky down dilly. When he saw Sir Eglamour, you should have heard how that dragon did roar. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. This dragon had a plaguey hard hide. Fa la lanky down dilly, which could the sharpest steel abide. Fa la lanky down dilly, not enter him with his cuts, which vexed the knight to his heart, blood, and guts. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. All the trees in the wood did shake. Fa la lanky down dilly. Houses did tremble and men did quake. Fa la lanky down dilly. The birds betook 'em to their peeping, 'twould have made a man's heart fall to weeping. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. Now it was no time to fear. Fa la lanky down dilly, for now it was fight dog, fight bear. Fa la lanky down dilly. As the dragon yawning did fall, he thrust his sword down hill and all. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. as the night in color did burn. Fa la lanky down dilly, he owed that dragon a shrewd good turn. Fa la lanky down dilly, in at its mouth his sword he sent, the hilt appeared at its fundament. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. Then the dragon began to fly, fa la lanky down dilly, into its den which was hard by. Fa la lanky down dilly, there he laid him down and roared. The knight was grieved for the loss of his sword. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. Now that sword it was a right good blade. Fa la lanky down dilly, as ever a Turk or Spaniard made. Fa la lanky down dilly, but for my part I do forsake it. He that will fetch it, let him take it. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. When all was done, to the alehouse he went. Fa la lanky down dilly, and in a trice his 2 pence he spent. Fa la lanky down dilly, he was so hot from tugging the dragon, the nudging went in but a whole flagon. Ba la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. Well, now let us pray for the king and queen. Fa la lanky down dilly, and eke in London there may be seen. Fa la lanky down dilly, as many a knight and as many more, and all as good as Sir Eglamour. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. That, of course, was Sir Eglamour, which Shakespeare used as one of his characters in Two Gentlemen of Verona. It allowed Shakespeare to give the audience an individual that they felt they knew and already had background information. We know that Sir Eglamour was a pretty good knight, but when push came to shove, he went to the tavern, which was where they were all singing his song. And that's the way his audiences could also know the story of Pyramus and Thisbe from A Midsummer Night's Dream before they went to see the show, because they were singing about it in the taverns. Or if there was a character that he wanted to show as a bit shady and perhaps lacking morals, he might refer to Tybalt as a Grey Friar, and the Friar and the Nun, or as a rat catcher. Well, there was a rare rat catcher, did about the country wander. The sound displayed of all his trade, I would him deeply slander. And he would cry, rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter I saw never. Upon a pole he carried full 40 fulsome vermin, whose cursed life without a knife to take did he determine. And he would cry, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter I saw never. He knew the nut of India that makes the magpie stagger, such mercuries and cantheries with arsenic and rosica. And he would cry, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter I saw never. He was so brave a Bowser, 'twas never wondered whether he taught them or the rats taught him to be drunk as rats together. Still he would cry, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter I saw never. Full often with the native juice of poppies drunk he, ate poison frank with a Monte bank and spiders with a monkey. And he would cry, rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat, terror-rat, terror-rat ever, to catch a mouse or two to rouse such a ratter I saw never. When he tripped his island from Bristol into Dover, with painful bag and painted flag to France he carried over. That, of course, being the abridged version. I'll leave the other 30-some-odd verses for you to look up yourself. From here, I'm going to jump to after Shakespeare's time to a Victorian broadside called The Ratcatcher's Daughter. In Westminster there lived a maid, a poor rat-catcher's daughter. Though she wasn't born in Westminster, but on the other side of the water. Her father killed rats and she cried sprats all around the wharves and the water. And the gentle folk, they all bought sprats off the poor little rat-catcher's daughter. Doodle-dee, doodle-dum, dee-dum-doodle-dum. Well, the gentle folk from miles around would marry her, all sought her, but her friends all vowed she turned up her nose to the poor little rat-catcher's daughter. But there was a man cried Lily White Sands, and Cupid's net had caught her, and over head and ears in blood, the poor little rat-catcher's daughter. Doodle-dee, doodle-dum, dee-dum, doodle-dum. And so they vowed they'd marry to be upon next Easter Sunday. But the rat-catcher's daughter had a dream she'd not be alive come Monday. To buy some sprats once more she went, and tumbled into the water, straight down to the bottom, all smothered in mud, with the poor little rat-catcher's daughter. Doodle-dee, doodle-dum, dee-dum, doodle-dum. When Lily White Sands he heard the news, his eyes ran down with water. Said him, my love, I'll constant grief blow me if I live long after. So he cuts his throat with a piece of glass, and he stabs his donkey after. So Donkey and Lily White Sands both died for love of a rat-catcher's daughter. A doodle-dee, doodle-dum, dee-dum, doodle-dum. So you've come to Fugly for a tale. Well, you've come to the right place, and luckily you said your prayers. I'll tell you the tale of Paddy O'Malley. See, it was a moonless night down by the docks, and Paddy, he was making his way to the pub, like he does every night, when he hears a voice in the distance. It's a cry for help. Sounds like a fair young maid. Where could she be in the dark? So he searches around. There are boats docked, there are ships out in the harbor, and there are many piers. And for quite a while he searches, stumbling in the dark, until he hears that voice loud and clear from below him. So he looks over, and partway down the pier he sees a maiden, and she is trapped in a fishing net. Well then, he grabs one of the ropes off the dock, he ties it around one of the cleats, and he starts letting himself down, and he notices that this maiden, well, she's beautiful from the waist up, but below that, she's a fish. I've never freed a mermaid, he says. Well, please, sir, I will be ever grateful. So, he makes short work of the net, and she plunges into the water. And she looks back up at him and says, thank you, sir. Says, then be on your way, lassie. Says, but sir, I am a magic mermaid, and you have freed me. I can grant you 3 wishes. 3 wishes? Oh, I don't know what I'd do with them. Well, try your best, and I will do my best to grant them. Well then, lassie, he thinks for a moment. As he hauls himself up into the dock, he sits there and says, I would like a tankard filled with ale that will never empty. Well, that's easy, she says. And all of a sudden in his hand, there's a tankard. And it's filled with ale. It smells like the finest ale. He downs it, and it fills back up again. So he downs it again. And once again, it fills back up. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful, he says. And for your other 2 wishes, she asked. Oh, that's all right, lassie. I'll just take 2 more like this one. And that is the tale of Paddy O'Malley. And now it is time for me to tuck you in. This is a rather erroneous version of the Spanish Armado, also known as 88, Sir Francis Drake. Was born, as I can well remember. In August was a fleet prepared that month before September. Spain escaped Portugal, Toledo, Santiago. It needs to form a fleet, and they called it the Armado. When they did take on provisions as mustard, peas, and bacon, some say 2 ships were full of whips, but I think that they were mistaken. Now there was a small man in Spain who shot well in a gun. Not Pedro Hyde as good a knight as a knight of the sun. To run away, the King of Spain did grant amain, and so to do more harm, he sent along to make him strong that fabled Prince of Parma. Now they sailed across the sea, they anchored on Dover. Our Englishmen did board them then and cast those Spaniards over. Our queen, she was in Tilbury. What could you more desire? For whose sweet sake Sir Francis Drake did set those ships on fire. So let them look about themselves. If they should come again, they shall be served with that same sauce as they were, and I know when. Let's leave it here for now. This is from a couple of different broadsides and a little bit of other inspiration that I cobbled together. Many of the broadside verses would, well, they would steal from each other, or they would take a bit from here and a bit from there, and have marked similarities in not only the subject matter, but also the meter of the verses. So when you would find a couple of them, they might be actually to the same melody, or they might be entirely different melodies. You may notice that if you are familiar with broadsides, that many of the melodies that I use are my own, and I don't always take them from the original source, because I have a more modern ear, and sometimes the melody just doesn't sit right on my palate. Sometimes it does, so this is one of my own. 'Twas on a dark and cheerless night to the southern of the Cape, when from a strong nor'wester we had just made our escape. Like an infant in its cradle, each breeze was hushed to sleep, and peacefully we sailed along the bosom of the deep. At length our helms Dutchman gave a shout of terror and of fear, as if he had just gazed upon some sudden danger near. The sea all round was cloud and foam, and just upon our lee we spied an apparition abounding o'er the sea. Take in your flowing canvas, lads, our watchful master cried. To us and our ship's company great peril doth betide. The billows crest with foam, all angry doth appear. The sea will seek to take us down, now Vanderdecken's near. We heard heave-ho the boom, bring that bow around, and let the Flying Dutchman gain the sighting of that sound. He scuds along too rapidly to mark his eagle's flight, and then like the Dutchman's helm full soon is out of sight. The crews of ships far distant now shudder at the breeze that bears the Flying Dutchman in fury o'er the seas. Here comes the Flying Dutchman, light o'er the lofty spray. Preceded by the tempest dire, he makes for Table Bay. With bird-like speed he's borne before the wind and howling blast. But ere he can cast anchor there, the bay alas is past. He cries, heave-ho the boom, to bring that bow around, and let the Flying Dutchman gain the sighting of that sound. Now mourn for Vanderdecken, for terrible's his doom. The ocean round that stormy cape, it is his living tomb. There the Dutchman beats about forever and a day, and tries in vain to keep his oath by entering Table Bay. Still he strides across the deck each night, enshrouded in the haze, inspecting down the stern while port and starboard runs his gaze. Crew standing at the ready awaits the next command of Hendrik Vanderdecken, captain of the dam. He cries, heave-ho the boom, to bring that bow around, and let the Flying Dutchman gain a sighting of that sound. It was some years ago that Mark Gunn contacted me and wondered if I had songs about unicorns, and I suggested, well, there's the unicorn song. He says, I already got that one. Unfortunately for the podcast, I didn't get it written for another day, but I came up with this afterwards. Oh, maiden fair, why do you weep? Have you sat here for long? Oh, sir, I seek the unicorn, but I fear to do you wrong. The hunter's bow can ne'er him find, nor knife nor silvering sword. But maiden's virtue draws him near with song and soft spoken word. The open sky and budding field, fair Eden does he roam, to run the free and verdant land he travels far from home. So here I sit, awaiting still, in hope to glimpse his face. He's here but brief, with a tread fair light, then bolts without a trace. Should I but sit more softly thus, perhaps sing more lilting me, that he should return as a lover might, and longer stay with me. The open sky and budding field, fair Eden does he roam, to run the free and verdant land he travels far from home. So you'd be wanting a tale from Fugly. Well, luckily you've already said your bedtime prayers. Mickey Riley, he was in the pub the other evening. He sees a man there he's never seen before. This man looks like he's been in the wilds for some time, for he has a growth upon his face, and he has a bit of a smell to him, like he hasn't had a bath in days. Weeks? Months? Who can tell? And he looks a bit down, Mickey notices, as he's staring into his ale there at the bar. So Mickey sidles up to him. Not too close because of the smell, of course. He says, "Hey, stranger, I haven't seen you in our parts before." "Aye," says the man, as he stares into his ale. "Well, what brings you by our parts?" asks Mickey. "So, I be hunting," says the man. "Hunting? Well, what's your prey?" "Ah," says the man, "I hunt unicorn." "Unicorn?" Mickey's face gets all big and round. "Never seen a unicorn. How do you hunt one of those?" "Well," says the man, "you must track the unicorn far and wide till you know where it's going to be. And then in a clearing in the woods you must lay a snare, and in that snare for bait you must place upon a stool a virgin maid, and she must sing sweetly until the unicorn thinks that it is safe and there is no one else around, and it will come and lay its head in her lap, and then you spring your snare." "Oh," says Mickey, "it sounds quite intense. You know, I've never seen one of them around here before. They must be quite rare." "Aye, and unicorns are not common as well." Now 'tis time for Fugly to tuck you in. One of the interesting things about broadsides, and we thought that Weird Al invented it, was that broadsides would often indicate a melody of a previous song, whether it was traditional or yet another broadside, to sing your song to. Sometimes there are original melodies, sometimes there weren't. That way, someone could pick up a broadside, make up their own melody, or they could look at what the melody was suggested, and they could sing it with their friends right on the spot if they wanted to. So, appropriating familiar melodies is one of those old traditions. Knights of old had their tribulations with dragons dragons and monsters to tame. But what caused them the most consternation was when they encountered a dame. Now some were tormented by portents, and others by wages of sin. But the source of their woes was not of their foes, but rather a lady's chagrin. Now consider the plight of Sir Tristan, who was brave, strong, and handsomely bold. His career was pushed over a precipice when he shared drinks with Isolde. And Arthur's favorite Sir Gawain, tormented by Lady Birdlack, along with his auntie Morgan Le Fay, it's a wonder that he made it back. Now forget not Sir Balin the Salvage, beware women proffering swords. His virtue then led him to behead the Lake Lady there afterwards. And Lancelot was no choir boy, for Guinevere was the king's wife. And once they were caught, then Sir Lancelot thereafter knew nothing but strife. And Morgause was Arthur's half-sister, by Arthur a child begot. And when that child grew, his father he slew, and brought the end of Camelot. Not only were knights so endangered, it seemed that no man could be safe. For Merlin himself fell for an elf who trapped him inside of a cave. The lesson to my story before my song is all sung. For dragons and monsters charge me, lads, at the sight of a damsel you run. Moving into the less traditional, and the more modern less traditional, I suppose, my newest CD is called Critter Myth, and it's patterned as if I were a broadside balladeer in a D&D campaign from my youth. So all of the references are from the Dungeon Master's Guide, pretty much, and experiences that I had back in the 70s and 80s. So this one's called Baba Yaga's Hut. Baba Yaga had a hut that could walk up and down the street, balanced up on two strong legs. At the bottom were talon chicken feet. It comes lumbering down the path, you better get out of its way. Don't you know that if you don't, there'll be all 9 hells to pay? Staggers left, it stumbles right, you wonder if it'll attack. You're best to turn and run for cover when you see that chicken shack. Well, Wendell Jones took a trip out back to see a man about a griffin. They found him wide-eyed, drooling mad, gibbering about some chicken. Staggers left, it stumbles right, you wonder if it'll attack. You're best to turn and run for cover when you see that chicken shack. Ellen Smith was hanging clothes high above the street. When she reeled them back inside, they were printed with dirty chicken feet. Staggers left, it stumbles right, you wonder if it'll attack. You're best to turn and run for cover when you see that chicken shack. You never know when your number's up and it's headed right for you. But if it does, throw your fingers up, shout a hearty Pluck you too! It staggers left and stumbles right. You wonder if it'll attack. You're best to turn and run for cover when you see that chicken shack. Yeah, you're best to turn and run for cover. Hug the ground, call for mother. You're best to turn and run for cover. Baba Yaga's chicken shack. I thought I'd end this on a little bit of a different and maybe even more modern note, but this is from that same collection. It's called Critter Myth. It's called The Deck of Many Don'ts. There's a reason we don't do it. Just turn and walk away. Don't set a bad example for the innocents in play. Nothing good will come of it, no matter what you lost. The deck of many things, it's never worth the cost. You may think the world's against you as you wallow in despair. Perhaps you seek adventure, so you decide to draw a pair. The first may be a boon, like a gem, a star, or key. The next will be the void, with the utmost certainty. I heard about a ruler of a principality. He thought he'd take a gamble, so he approached it logically. If I take just one, he told himself, my chances will be few. He drew one card, then death appeared, and promptly ran him through. There's a reason we don't do it. Just turn and walk away. Don't set a bad example for the innocents in play. Nothing good will come of it, no matter what you lost. The deck of many things, it's never worth the cost. Now drawing is a gamble, still think you haven't got enough. Know that we will miss you and appreciate your stuff. But if you're feeling wiser, rather than melee, just throw it at your enemy and promptly run away. There's a reason we don't do it. Just turn and walk away. Don't set a bad example for the innocents in play. Nothing good will come of it, no matter what you lost. The deck of many things, it's never worth the cost. No, it's never worth the cost. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure playing for you this day.
Welcome to the 45th Annual Medieval Fair and a weekend full of virtual events. We are Tullamore, or the Big Hill as they say in Irish, and we're coming to you from the upper cellar here at O'Malley's Irish Pub, literally the coolest pub in the United States, down in the 3 lagering cellars beneath the old Weston Brewing Company here in Weston, Missouri. We are now in our 25th year of performing across the country and across the Atlantic, and it's our pleasure and privilege to be back at Medieval Fair and performing for you all today. So come on in and let the music begin. Our first song is called Sullivan's John. It's our traditional opener. The song was written by Pecker Dunn, or it was collected and turned into a formalized arrangement by Pecker Dunn. He was a singer and songwriter born in Castlebar in the 1930s, and he died about 10 years ago. Song comes from a family of traveling folk, and it's about the traveling folk, and it's about John Sullivan, who was the son of a wealthy North Cork farmer who forsook all of his family riches and went on the road with a traveling girl who won his heart. The tune that we're going to play at the beginning and at the end is a piece that I wrote about 20 years ago called Trip to Erin. 5, 6, 7. Sullivan's John, to the road you've gone, far away from your native home. You've gone with the tinker's daughter, far along the road you roam. Sullivan's John, you won't stay get long, till your belly will soon grow slack, and you'll traipse in the road with a mighty load and the toolbox on your back. I met Katie Copine with her neat baby behind on her back, strapped on, and in her hand an old ash plant for to beat the donkey on. Inquiring at every poor farmer's door as along the road they ran. Well, now where could they find an old pot to mend, and where could they swap an ass? There's a hairy ass there in the county Clare, in a place they call Spancel Hill, where my brother James got a rap from a hay, but poor Paddy they tried to kill. They loaded it into an old ass and carts while big Kate and Mary looked on. Well, bad cess to the day that I went away to join with the tinker. John, to the road you've gone, far away from your native home. You've gone where the tinker's daughter, far along the road you roam. Sullivan's John, you won't stay get long, till your belly will soon grow slack, and you'll traipse in the road with a mighty load and the toolbox on your back. Thank you so much. The next song that we'd like to do for you is a song called Spancel Hill. This is another Irish emigration song. There's tons of them. And this song was written by Michael Considine, an Irishman who left Spancel Hill in 1850, came to the United States, came to Boston and was there till about 1870, and then moved out to California, and he lived for 3 more years and passed away at 23. He wrote this song about 6 months before he died. It's a beautiful song, one of those looking back wistfully songs, and it was very long. It was probably 11 or 12 verses, of which we will do 10 or 11. No, I'm kidding. We'll do about 7 of them. And Mike's going to sing this for you.
Last night as I lay dreaming of pleasant days gone by, my mind being bent on rambling, to Ireland I did fly. I stepped on board a vision and followed with a will, till next I came to anchor at the cross of Spancel Hill. Delighted by the novelty, enchanted by the scene, when in my early boyhood, where oft times I have been, I thought I heard a murmur, I think I hear it still. It's a little stream of water that flows by Spancel Hill. To amuse a passing fancy, I lay down on the ground, and all my school companions had shortly gathered round. When we were home returning, we danced with light goodwill to Martin Moynihan's music at the cross near Spancel Hill. It being the 23rd of June, the day before the fair, when Ireland's sons and daughters and friends assembled there, the young, the old, the brave and the bold came their duty to fulfill at the parish church at Ploody, just a mile from Spancel Hill. I went to see my neighbors, to hear what they might say. The old ones, they were dead and gone, the young ones turning grey. I met the tailor Quigley, he's as bold as ever still. He used to mend my breeches when I lived in Spancel Hill. I paid a flying visit to my first and only love. She's fair as any lily and gentle as a dove. She threw her arms around me sang, Johnny, I love you still. She was Meg, the farmer's daughter, and the pride of Stansel Hill. I held her close and kissed her as in the days of yore. She said, Johnny, you're only dreaming, as many's the time before. The cock crew in the morning, he crew both loud and shrill. And I woke in California, many miles from Stansel Hill.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks.
All right, our next song is a song called Step It Out, Mary. This song was written in 1959 by Sean McCarthy, a Listowel County Kerry man. The song is about an arranged marriage gone horribly wrong. And this is actually one of the very first songs in our songbook, and we loved doing it. It's hard to put down a good song. Mary's going to sing this for you, and we're going to back her up. Here we go. Ready?
But the countryman comes riding, he rides up on his gate, riding on the Cupid's star, he comes to the strike at 8.
Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Step it out, Mary, if you can. Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Show your legs to the countryman. Show your legs to the countryman.
Well, I have come to court your daughter, Mary of the golden hair. I have got a house over, I have goods beyond compare. Well, I hope I have silks and satin and a golden hand. I hope I have a mansion shall have servants to command.
Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Step it out, Mary, if you can. Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Show your legs to the countryman. Show your legs to the countryman.
Well, I don't want your house of silver, I don't want your copper knives. I have gone to the soldier, I have promised in my hand. But the father's spoke of sharply, you will do as you are told. You get married on this Sunday and you'll wear that ring of gold.
Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Step it out, Mary, if you can. Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Show your legs to the countryman. Show your legs to the countryman.
In the village of Kilgory, there's a deep stream flowing high. On her marriage day at midnight, she draws the soldier boy. In the cottage there is music, you can hear her father say,
Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Sunday is your wedding day. Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Step it out, Mary, if you can. Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Show your legs to the countryman. Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Step it out, Mary, if you can. Step it out, Mary, my fine daughter. Show your legs to the countryman. Show your legs to the countryman. Show your legs to the countryman.
so much. Thank you. All right, the next song that we'd like to do for you is a really lovely Scottish song called I'll Meet Thee on the Lee Rig. This kind of started out as a fragment, and Robert Burns got his hand on it and did all sorts of beautiful finagling of it.
No pun intended.
And we ended up with the song that we're about to sing for you now. It's one of the most beautiful songs that Robert Burns ever wrote. And he's responsible for about 7,500 pieces of published songs, poems. He actually didn't think that he did that great of a job with it and said so to his publisher. His publisher's like, you're out of your mind. And Rachel's going to sing it for you, so here we go. Ready? 5, 6, 7, and...
When o'er the hill the eastern star tells book then time is near much old, and else and frey the furrowed field returns set up and weedy old. Down by the burn where brook and bones with the war hanging clear my joy, I'll meet thee on the nearing kind video. At midnight hour in murkiest glare I drove and near thee, if through that glen I gaze at thee, my kind video. Although the light would ne'er say one, and I would ne'er say with you, I'll meet thee on the lyric, my kind video. The hunter loves the morning sun to rouse the mountain deer much old. At noon the fisher he seeks a glen hard down the fountain steer much old. Give me the hour of gold and grey, it makes my head say cheerio. Then meet thee on the lyric, my leads beyond the lyric. I ain't kind to deal.
I ain't kind
Thank you.
Next song we'd like to do for you is a song called One of Ireland's Children. This song was written by Eddie Delahunt, a Dublin-born, Dublin-bred singer-songwriter. Served in the Irish Merchant Marines, came to the United States about 1993 or 94. Came out to Kansas City, first started playing at Cummings Irish Restaurant and Pub down on Warnell on 87th. And that's where Frank Blair and I met him. And he kind of moved on to Harling's Upstairs and O'Dowd's on the Plaza. Came up to O'Malley's in 94 maybe. And Frank and I became fixtures here, coming up to every Saturday to see Eddie play. He was that good. You could sit through his show over and over again. He wrote this song while visiting some Irish friends in London in the mid-'80s, and he said that he was out walking around in the blue-collar neighborhoods and where a lot of unemployment had happened and left a lot of Irishmen destitute. He said he calls this his Irish blues song. Paddy's down in London town. Got no money, there's no work to be found. On an empty belly, he's been sleeping rough. He caught a chill, can't shake it off. To be home again, he's dreamed so long. But his home and all his people are gone. Though a lonely man, he'll fight the tears. Still a stranger here. After all of these years, he says, I remember my childhood, green fields and the wildwood, running free like a river. One of Ireland's children took the boat in 51 in search of work like everyone, digging roads and lifting loads for England's chosen one. Well, the years went by and the Irish boys came back with what they'd found. Paddy kept on searching through the streets of London town. For Paddy's been told there's streets paved with gold in London. For Paddy's been told there's streets paved with gold in London. Paddy's out in London town. Got no money, there's no work going round. On an empty belly, he's been sleeping rough. He got a chill, he can't shake it off. He got a chill, he can't shake it off. He got a chill, he couldn't shake it off.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, the next song that we'd like to do for you is a song called The Work of the Weavers. It's a traditional Scottish song, very well loved, well known. The song was written in the 1840s by a weaver from Forfar named David Shaw. Not y'all's sound guy, David Shaw. Very different guy. The song shows a working man's awareness of his worth, and it shows the position that weavers held in the Industrial Revolution age of Scotland. We're going to play a tune at the beginning and at the end called The Black Run. This was a hornpipe that was written by John Higgins from the Kansas City St. Andrews Pipes and Drums. And the name, The Black Run, comes from the midnight drive that they would make across western Kansas on their way to the Golden, Colorado Highland Games. And for those of you who have driven across Kansas in the middle of the night, western Kansas, may God have mercy on your souls. Here we go. Ready? 6, 7, and...
with our glasses in our hands and our work upon our back. But there's no trade among the folk and men talk and rock. If it was not for the work of the weaver,
if it was not for the weaver, what would you do? You would not have clothes that's made of wool. You would not have gold, neither black nor blue. If it was not for the work of the weaver.
Now there's folks that have no need of other tradesmen's work. The women need no barber, the typists need no clerk, but none of them can do without a coat or a sock. Now they cannot hack the work of the weaver.
If it was not for the weavers, what would you do? You would not have clothes that's made of wool. You would not have coat, neither black nor blue. If it was not for the work of the weaver.
Now there's soldiers and the sailors, and there's highwaymen and all. There's doctors and there's ministers and officers of law. And our friends in South America, the them we never saw. We can make the work of a weaver.
If it was not for the weavers, what would you do? You would not have clothes that's made of wool. You would not have coat, neither black nor blue. If it was not for the work of the weavers. never can fail, so long as we declare for the King of body hail. So let us all be merry, pour a pickle of good ale, and we'll drink to the work of the weaver. If it was not for the weavers, what would you do? You would not have clothes that's made of wool. You would not have coat, neither black nor blue. If it was not for the work of the weaver, if it was not for the weavers, what would you do? You would not have clothes that's made of wool. You would not have coat, neither black nor blue. If it was not for the work of the weavers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, in October of 2003, I think it was, we had the pleasure of meeting Deanna Smith Scotland and her band Jiggernaut, which, by the way, if you ever get the chance to see Jiggernaut play live, you should do it. They're a really, really great group of people. We met them right here in Weston at the Weston Irish Festival. And we became really great and fast friends. And in addition to being their lead singer, Deanna is a singer and songwriter, and she wrote this original song, Absent Friends. Really beautiful song, and it's become a touchstone in the Dallas-Fort Worth Celtic community, and really the greater Texas Celtic community. We've had a couple of occasions to sing this song at the passing of a couple people who are really close to the band. And while it's really a very highly personal song for us, we decided to add it to our repertoire, and it was the first song that we chose to record on our most recent CD. As an acknowledgement of how fleet life is, and how special the company that we keep in life. So we'd like to dedicate the song to Deanna and to all the people who are no longer with us in the past year. Ready? 5, 6, 7.
Safe home, my friend, fare thee well. Where this road will lead us, only time can tell. But we'll travel on together just for a little while. And when it's time to part, I'll leave you with a smile. When there's music in the corner and laughter on the air, we will meet in love and friendship, sure your spirit will be there. So we'll open up a bottle and leave strings tied with soft silken cords. Time's a luxury that no man can afford. Your memories are my treasures, I'll keep them all my days. You have changed me in 1,000 little ways. When there's music in the corner and laughter on the air, we will meet in love and friendship, sure your spirit will be there. So we'll open up a bottle and leave the angels share, and remember as some friends. Now it's time, my friend, to move on. But in hearts that really love you, you are never really gone. You're the breeze that blows around us, the moon that lights the sky. With joy and tears we bid you now goodbye. When there's music in the corner and laughter on the air, we will meet in love and friendship, sure your spirits will be there. So we'll open up a bottle and leave the angels share, and remember absent friends. Here's a toast to absent friends. Raise your glass to absent friends.
It doesn't really fit into the genre of most anti-recruitment songs, and these are songs like Johnny, I Hardly Knew Ya. And the sentiment of these songs is, no. Don't listen to that recruiting sergeant, because for the king's shilling that they promise you, they will send you straight to the front lines of the war, and you'll be treated like cannon fodder, and you'll come home without an arm or without your legs or without an eye, and they'll have to sit you in the streets with a bowl to beg. Don't do that.
Or to play accordion.
Arthur McBride is a proactive anti-recruitment song. The sentiment of the song is, hey, let's find that recruiting sergeant and his little drummer boy pal. And younger audiences might be too tender for those scenes. Anyway, we're going to play a tune at the beginning. It's a reel called Andy Rennick's Ferret that we're going to play like a hornpipe because we can. And the tune at the end is a Scottish air called The Fisherman's Song for Attracting Seals. And we're going to play that like a jig because we can't. And word is that like if you really want to attract seals, pick up a penny whistle and go play that song because it works. Ready? 5, 6.
up the dust and drink the king's health in the morning. And we've been such fools as to take the advance. With a wee bit of warning, we'd battered our chance. For you have no scruples but to send us to France, where we would be killed without warning. Well now, says the sergeant, if I hear one more word, I instantly now I will out with my sword and into your bodies strength well afford. So now, my gay devils, take warning. Arthur and I, we took up the odds, and we gave them no chance for to launch out their swords. Our Wacken shillelaghs came over their heads, and we bade them take that as their warning.
As for the wee drummer, we rifled his pow, and we made a football of his rowdy down and into the ocean to rock and to roll, and that in a tedious returning. As for the old rapier that hung by his side, we flung it as far as we could in the tide. To the devil I pitch you, says Arthur McBride, to temper your steel in the morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We want to thank you all for being here at the 45th Annual Medieval Fair and their weekend of virtual events, and for joining us for our performance. We hope you've had as much fun listening as we've had playing for you all. We invite you to stay tuned for all the great entertainment this weekend and to check out the vendors as well. And if you can, consider making a donation to the Medieval Fair. Your support will help ensure the long-term future of the fair. Thanks again for being here. Take care of yourselves, be safe, and have a great day. Bye.
Of all the money e'er I've had, I've spent it in good company, and all the harm that e'er I've done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So filled to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Of all the comrades there I've had, they are sorry for my going away. And all the sweethearts there I've had, they wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should go and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. I'll gently rise and softly call.